As we begin this new series, we're going to be using this particular text of the Summa Theologica, Sancti Thomae Aquinatis Doctoris Angelici. So of St. Thomas Aquinas, these are all masculine singular and genitives, the angelic doctor, the Summa Theologiae, the sum or summary of theology. Theologiae, of course, feminine singular and genitive, and Summa, of course, feminine singular and nominative. That's the title, that's the content. So this is the first part, prima pars, and it is the Marietti text, Rome 1948. Notice Romae here, feminine singular and locative. So here on the very first of this series, we will put the text that we'll be using, the Marietti text, and hereafter that will be omitted. This then begins the famous 5 ways or proofs for God's existence. Summa Theologia, Part 1, Quaestio Secunda, Question 2, Articulus Tertius, the third article. Utrum Deus sit, whether God exists. Utrum, of course, is the interrogative, Deus masculine, singular, and nominative. Sit, of course, the standard way for asking a question of this sort. It is asked whether God exists. This would be an interrogatio obliqua, that is, an indirect question. It is asked, or the question is put, whether God exists. Either he does or he does not. This, therefore, is an alternative question. Sit, of course, will be third singular, present, subjunctive, and active. Now that we have the title out of the way, let's read the text, translate, and analyze. Ad tertium sic proceditur, videtur quod Deus non sit, quia si unum contrariorum fuerit infinitum, totaliter destruetur aliud, sed hoc intelligitur in hoc nomine Deus, scilicet quod sit quoddam bonum infinitum. Si ergo Deus esset, nullum malum invenitur autem malum in mundo, ergo Deus non est. As we begin, we have ad tertium, that is, ad tertium articulum, to the third article, thus it proceeds. So this is a passive, of course, because this is the scholastic style to pronounce it this way or to structure it this way, but I would put it into an active voice. We now move on to the third article. So to the third article, thus it proceeds. Proceditur is a present passive. Videtur, it seems that God does not exist. Or we might say it appears that God does not exist. Videtur, very simply, third singular, present indicative, and passive. This is from the second conjugation verb video, videre, of course, and quod here is a standard scholastic or late Latin way of introducing ordinatio obliqua, that is, indirect statement. Quod and quia, these are common conjunctions for the indirect statement, what would have been in classical times accusative plus infinitive. It appears that God does not exist, because si unum contrariorum, if one of the contraries, unum is neuter, singular, and nominative, because it is going to be the subject of fuerit, like so. Contrariorum is neuter, plural, and genitive. If one of the contraries, now what is contrariorum? It is the contraries of God's existence and evil. If one of those contrary things would be infinite, infinitum, and this infinitum is neuter singular nominative because it is the predicate of unum. Now I'm taking fuerit here as a third singular, a future perfect indicative active. If one of the contraries shall have existed, then the other, aliud, shall be destroyed altogether or completely destroyed. Aliud is neuter, singular, and nominative. It's replying to or corresponding to unum, which is the same gender number case. Totaliter, obviously an adverb, and destruetur, third singular, future, indicative, and passive. So this is a third conjugation verb, destruo, like so, and destruere. If one of them, that is, God, exists, then the other will be altogether, totaliter, eliminated or annihilated, destruetur. But, he continues, this thing, hoc, is understood by this title, in this name, or this designation, God. But this is what we take to exist, or this is understood, or is meant by this title, in hoc nomine, Deus. Interligatur, third singular, present indicative, passive. Hoc is going to be neuter, singular, nominative, and we're going to be told what hoc is in the remainder of the sentence. But for now, it is just set out there as the marker. But this is understood by this title, God. Evidently, or namely, that's scilicet, which is an adverb. Of course, it is the shortening of scire and licet. One may know. So, evidently, that he is, that is Deus, he is something that is good and it's infinite. Or we might say he is some infinite good. Each one of these is neuter, singular, and nominative as the subject of sit. Now here comes the conditional. If, therefore, God did exist, esset, third singular, and this will be imperfect, subjunctive, and active, because we're going to have a contrary to fact present conditional here, or what we could call a praesens, to use the Latin. I misspelled that. Praesens id reale. Therefore, if God were to exist, then no evil would be found. Nullum malum, neuter, singular, nominative. Just as Deus is the subject of esset, malum is the subject of inveniretur, modified by nullum. So again, this is a contrary to fact present, or a praesens id reale conditional. If, therefore, God were to exist, no evil would be found. Now, says Aquinas, however, autem, we take this as adversative, however, it is found, evil is found in the world, or it exists. Invenitur, third singular, present, indicative, passive, from the fourth conjugation verb invenire, like so. Malum, our subject, neuter, singular, and nominative. And, of course, mundo is an ablativus loci, an ablative of place. But in fact, evil is located, it is found, invenitur, in the world. Now here comes the conclusion. Ergo, therefore, God does not exist. Deus non est. We are about to begin a new series, an examination of St. Thomas Aquinas' 5 proofs for God's existence, the 5 ways. These include the arguments for motion, causality, contingency, and more. We will maintain our commitment to providing you with the highest quality Greek and Latin instruction, and adding to our library of more than 2,300 free instructional videos. But for those wanting a deeper and more rigorous study, we're making additional resources available. This series on Aquinas' 5 proofs, his Quinque Vii, will be available only for our YouTube channel and Patreon subscribers. By joining as a YouTube member or a Patreon subscriber, you gain access to extended, comprehensive lectures, essential quizzes on the Latin language designed to assess and cement your knowledge of this excellent and complex material. Please support this high-level content by joining as a Patreon subscriber or hitting the Members Only button that you can find below. Thanks for watching.